When I was in high school, there was a kid who claimed he was a demon. I don't even feel comfortable writing his real name, so I'll call him Patrick. His actual name sounded like something from a Shakespearean play. He was awkward, socially isolated, and had this eerie, empty stare that made even teachers uneasy. Patrick always wore the same gray hoodie every single day, rain or shine. It smelled awful, like it had never been washed. What stood out the most about him was his obsession with wearing sunglasses, even indoors. Teachers eventually gave up asking him to remove them because he would ignore them, staring blankly as if he were above all rules. Patrick was known for adopting people. By adopting, I mean if he liked you, and he decided that completely at random, he would walk up to you, say, "You're adopted now," and somehow that meant you were safe from him. Nobody really questioned this bizarre ritual. Most people laughed it off, but I knew it meant something to him. For reasons I still can't fully understand, Patrick adopted me. Looking back, it might have been because he had a crush on me, though I never encouraged it. Another girl, Gabby, was also adopted. His feelings for Gabby were much more obvious, and my friends would often joke about it, though it made her uncomfortable. One day, Gabby, Laura, Luke, and I were hanging out by the dugouts behind our school. The conversation drifted to Patrick, and as teenagers do, we laughed about his crush on Gabby. I vividly remember Laura slipping and using Patrick's real name. The third time she said it, Patrick appeared, out of nowhere, on top of the dugout, with a baseball bat. We froze. Patrick didn't say a word. He just stared at us with that vacant, unsettling look. Then, after a few moments, he nodded at me, jumped down, and walked away. We laughed nervously after he left, but deep down, I was shaken. The next incident was even creepier. I was at Laura's house. We were in her room talking, and Patrick's name came up again. 3 times, unintentionally. About 10 minutes later, we heard the front door slam. Confused, we went downstairs to see who had come in. To our shock, Patrick was standing in the living room, calmly talking to Laura's mom. When she asked him why he was there, he simply replied, "I was summoned." Laura's mom, being familiar with Patrick, politely asked him to leave, which he did without resistance. But as we went back upstairs, Laura and I exchanged terrified looks. It was then we made the connection. Patrick seemed to appear every time his name was said 3 times in a conversation. From that day forward, we all agreed never to speak his name 3 times again. Months went by without incident. We were beginning to think it was all just a strange coincidence until the night at Johnny's house. We were hanging out in his backyard when, once again, the topic of Patrick came up. Johnny, the skeptic of the group, didn't believe our stories. To prove us wrong, he deliberately said Patrick's name 3 times. Nothing happened at first, and Johnny smirked, mocking us. But a few minutes later, Patrick leaped over Johnny's backyard fence. He stood there, staring at us silently. Johnny, now pale and visibly shaken, accused us of setting the whole thing up. But we had done nothing. Patrick stood there for what felt like forever, before jumping back over the fence and disappearing into the night. Johnny ended the hangout early, too scared to continue. We finally looked over Johnny's shoulder and made out the fence, and disappearing into the night. Johnny ended the hangout early, too scared to continue. The last encounter with Patrick is one I'll never forget. It was a stormy night, and I was home alone. I had invited a guy I was talking to over, and at some point Patrick's name came up. I told him everything about Patrick, hoping to warn him, but he just laughed it off. Then, He did the one thing I begged him not to do. He shouted Patrick's name 3 times. Almost instantly, the storm outside intensified. Lightning flashed, illuminating a silhouette in the driveway. My heart stopped. It was Patrick. I closed the blinds and locked every door in the house, but when I looked outside again, he was standing in my yard, completely still. I panicked and began shouting, "I'm adopted! I'm adopted!" over and over again, hoping it would somehow protect me. The guy I was with tried to calm me down, but the fear was too overwhelming. By the time I looked outside again, Patrick was gone. The next morning, I went outside to check the yard. In the far corner, I found his hoodie wrapped around some of my belongings that I thought I'd lost months ago. That was the last time I saw Patrick. He disappeared after that night and never returned to school. No one knows what happened to him, and part of me doesn't want to know. Even now, I sometimes wonder if he's out there, watching, waiting, and listening.